Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. As you can tell, today it's raining outside and there's not a whole lot we can do out there in this swampy rain that we've been having the last few days. So I thought today would be a good excuse to do a short little rainy weather project to keep us busy and to stay involved working on the Jeep. So today we're going to mount right here our Cooltech JL antenna mount for our CB radio. So I've laid this out over here for you guys, and you'll have to excuse my mess everywhere. Here's the Cooltech kit, and in this kit you get the Firefly antenna, you get 2 mounting bolts and the spacers, and you get this cool stainless steel bracket. Now to do this job, you're going to need a couple tools, your wrench, you need a Torx bit, the T40 for the camera mount, you need a 6 for these 2 bolts here, and you'll need a T55 to get the bolts off the back of the Jeep, your lock nut removal for the bolts on the tire, and you'll need a 22mm to get the other 2 bolts off there. So we're going to go ahead and take that rear tire off of there. So first thing we need to do is take the T40 bit, come back over here, unlock this cover, pull this off, and that'll give us access to the locking nut on the bottom here for this tire. We'll take these off and these off and these off and get that tire off there. So we've got that cover off, and here I've got the locking bit for the tire lock. There we go. Break that free. So we'll take this tire off. Now we got it off, and roll it out of the way. Now that the tire's off and out of the way, we're going to use our T55 bit in the lower bracket here. And I know the instructions tell you to use the top bracket, but the one thing I wanted to make sure I got was clearance for my garage door here when I was coming in and out with the Jeep. And by using the 3-foot antenna and installing it on this lower mount, I will have no problems clearing that. And thinking ahead, I do intend to put some kind of lift on this Jeep, and once I lift it another couple inches, it would cause big problems with that antenna and clearing the garage door. So I'm going to use this lower mount, take these 2 bolts off, and this is where we're going to install that bracket. Now before we take those 2 bolts out, the instructions tell you to take some cardboard, and I got a piece here, and fold it up and place it down in between the door and close the door. And what that'll do is keep the door level, so when you take those bolts off, the weight doesn't shift and bring that whole door down and throw off your gap alignment. So we're going to go ahead and place this cardboard in there and get that situated before we take these 2 bolts. There's our cardboard folded over in there, and now we're ready to take the 2 bolts out of there. To get this T55 to mate into the slot properly, it does look like I am going to have to use my hammer and tap that in there just gently to get them into that hole. So I've got it lined up. A couple little taps have it in there, and now I should be able to back that bolt, pulling out these 2 bolts. And I'm going to start in one of these before I get going here with taking the other bolt out, just to prevent any chance of this shifting on here. We have the bracket on and those 2 bolts out. I'm going to go ahead and snug them down. Now we've got those snugged down, and we can go ahead and move on to inserting the cable and the antenna. To install this cable, you need a 14mm for the bottom nut, and then this adapter up top uses the 3/8 inch wrench to put that on. So we'll end up sandwiching this in here on the stainless steel. It needs to go in this particular order, with the lock washer, the washer, and then the plastic washer on the bottom to keep it isolated from the mount. Now that we have that locked down, we're going to go ahead and run the cable through here. But I found that if you get your fingers in here and gently pull and pry, that this is popping out nicely. So now that we have this panel out, we can go ahead and find a spot where that grommet is. We've got that cable Coming up and through the grommet, push the grommet back in. And we left a little bit of play here, just a little bit, just in case we should need that for some reason. Brought it through the grommet, which is actually back behind this wall, and very carefully, took a few minutes, but was able to fish it out through here. So now we'll go ahead and take a few zip ties and run it across this cable with the rest of the wires, and we're going to go ahead and try and leave that just enough play in here so when the door opens and closes that we still have some play in here and it doesn't bind up or pull this or anything. So we want to make sure we do that right. Now that we've got those zip tied on there, we're going to go ahead and clip off those zip tie ends and clean it up, make it look nice and neat. So we've got those clips all cleaned up. Now we're going to go ahead and take the tail cover here and clip that back in place. Try and do that with one hand. Woo. So you can hear those clips clipping in. Just give them a quick push in. Make sure this cable's lined up coming out of the same hole there. You go ahead and click all those in all the way around. A little firm push out of make sure those are in there. And now all the difficult part is basically done. You've got your cable in. Still got it coming through on this side. Mount's nice and good. Everything's tightened up. We do have to put the antenna on there. We'll do that in a second. And then put the rear tire back on. So here at this point, now that that's back on there, we're going to go ahead and take this line and run it down through the floorboards, down through here. So now just like we dismounted the tire, we're going to go ahead and grab the tire, put it back on here, mount it back up. Fortunately, I'm not good enough to pick that tire up with the camera in my hand, so I had to pick that up and get these bolts just started on here. And now we'll get these started down and we'll torque them down a bit. But to save you guys time, I'm going to fast forward past this. Now that we have those bolts back on, go ahead and put the cover to the camera back in place. So again, this is the 3-foot antenna in black. And go ahead and twist this down in. So once we've got that on here, we use our 7/16 to go ahead and snug that down to the base. So as you guys can see, I've gone in, fished the line through the plastic pieces, the plastic trim pieces. Now I've got them up to the front. What I didn't show you guys was mounting my CB radio. I do have a very old radio, but you can mount that wherever you'd like. I know there's different mounts available, but for this instance, I've mounted it on the side of my control panel. It's out of the way, it doesn't bother the passenger. And I'm gonna go ahead and route these wires up through here, up around, to use all of the cord without having it binded or wrapped around. You don't want any of those cords wrapped around. And then I will plug it in through there using the adapter that came with it, and we'll be all done. So there we go, finished product. It's mounted into the back of the CB radio. Went back into here, up through. It's routed back through there. It goes back down along here, along the edges, all the way back, through the passenger's door, back behind the seats, back to the antenna. And there's the antenna mounted on the back of the Jeep. One thing I want to warn you guys about, if you do this installation, make sure that if you go to open your back window, that you fully open your door all the way. Otherwise, this glass will hit your antenna. So something to be careful about. Just be mindful, it's not a big deal. But that will hit. But that's the installation completed. If you guys want to hear the radio, it's working better than it ever has before. Get my little light here. Sorry, I'm trying to do this all with one or two hands. It's getting a little tricky. Hit the power button.
Over the southern Appalachians and surrounding areas through Monday.
So there we go.
A cold front will arrive from the northwest on Monday night, but
Getting
likely
great
spell over
signal.
the region on Tuesday with with abundant
And we
moisture
get a
returning
couple
through
different
Wednesday.
channels that come in for
Another
us.
cold front will finally push through the region late in the week to bring...
So that's it. That's the CB radio installed in my Moab, ready to go. So now we can talk with anybody else on the trails or anywhere we need to. Thank you for joining us today. If you guys enjoyed this video, please let us know. Hit the like button. Subscribe to our channel for some more videos. This is the install of the Cooltech radio JL mount. Again, this is a pretty cool mount. Chose this one because it's stainless steel. It's an easy install. It looks like it belongs. Subscribe to our channel. Give us a like. Leave us a comment. The next video that we're going to get up here, if you guys notice that, we're going to go ahead and get this rugged ridge mount for our metal bumper, Mopar bumper, and mount up this Warn winch. We got the 10,000 pound Warn, and we'll get that in there next. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate you guys. Thanks to all those who have already subscribed. We really appreciate that. Stay in touch. Keep watching and get out there and drive your Jeep.